We'll go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and jump to the next slide and just jump right in. First, what is a cactus? It's a succulent, which is any plant with a thick, fleshy succulent water storage organ. Succulents store water in their leaves, their stems, their roots, depending on type of succulent that it is. Succulents have adapted to survive arid conditions throughout the world, from Africa to deserts of North America, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an arid place for a cactus to actually have developed in. It just has to be a dry area like in rocks or sandy soils, those kinds of things. So a cactus is a succulent, but a succulent isn't necessarily a cactus. So that's, cactus is simply a family or a subcategory within the group of plants collectively known as succulents. So most of the succulent plants are cactus or can be cactus, but to be a cactus, it has to have an areole. And areoles are small, round, cushion-like mounds of flesh. You can see there in the next photo here in just a second, and it's where the spines are. It's where the new growth starts, and it's where the actual thorns come out of that will poke your fingers. So you can see this picture here. To be a cactus, it has to have that areole. And you can see there where the thorns are coming out. That's also where the new growth will usually come from on a cactus. And next to it is not a cactus, but just a succulent. And you can see it doesn't have areoles. It does have spikes, but it doesn't have areoles. So that's how to tell the difference between the two. There's about 127 genre and 1,750 species in the Cactaceae family. That's a lot of cactus when you start thinking about all those different species. And the word cactus actually derives through Latin and ancient Greek cactos, meaning spiny plant. And you can see there's definitely plenty of spines on the prickly pears. So here's the native range for cactus. All but one is from the West. There has been some debate on even the ones that are over in Africa, if they actually were native to there or they hitched a ride on some birds that was migrating over or something to that effect. But from Canada all the way down to the tip of South America and all the little islands in between have cactus somewhere on them. The only one that's not only in the West is the Ripsalis, which is a type of cactus. And I'm sorry my light just turned off because I'm not in front of the switch right now. I hope you can still see me. But the Ripsalis is the only one that's not native to our side of the world, or only native, I should say. So most cactus aren't hardy. We think of these mostly as being in deserts and desert plants. However, some of them are hardy, believe it or not. We will concentrate on them, and more importantly, the prickly pear. Here in this picture is our native eastern prickly pear. It is native to Kentucky. You will find it pretty much all over the state, depending on the location. Some people really love this plant. Some people really hate it. I know some people have had problems trying to eradicate it if it's in a spot that it really likes. But you can see here when it blooms, it is absolutely gorgeous, and it's got quite a few blooms there to go yet. But this plant really does like a dry place. And if you've got like a rocky area or something like that, you want to grow something in it, you can plant these plants in it. So prickly pear is Oputnia. It is also known as the prickly pear, the tuna fruit. I don't know where the tuna fruit came from. That's just a Sabra and nopal. We think of nopal as like, some Mexican restaurants have that because we do eat those. Well, some people do. And paddle cactus, but you can see why we got that name as well. Like most all of our cactus, Oputnia is native only to the Americas. They're most abundant in Mexico. However, they are all the way up to Canada and all the way down to the tip of South America, as I said earlier. And they do like arid or semi-arid locations. In the picture here, this is Oputnia ficus indica, which is the most commonly eaten types of prickly pear. If you've ever eaten prickly pear cactus, the only thing I could describe it as, somebody had asked me what it tasted like, and the only thing I can say is just green. That is just the first thing that comes to my mind about whenever somebody asks me what it tastes like. I've never eaten the fruit, but I understand it's supposed to be really tasty, but I've never gotten a chance to eat it. Oputnia is the most cold tolerant of the lowland cactuses, with species growing as far as Canada and British Columbia. It produces fruit that is edible and is commonly eaten in Mexico. The fruit ranges in color from red wine, red, green, or yellow, orange. So I got distracted there. Somebody's at my door. That's why I shook my head. You can see the large fruit on this variety right here. It's they're probably getting close to ready to harvest. Charles Darwin first noted that prickly pear has thigmotactic anthers, which just means that whenever something touches them, the anthers fold over and deposit pollen. If you think about that, why this would be effective, if you've got a bee in there and automatically it releases pollen and covers that bee, then it's going to spread that pollen more readily. Prickly pear was originally imported into Europe in the 1500s, and it later went into Australia in the 1800s. Mainly, it was Oputnia stricta, which is an upright form, and it was imported to Australia. They wanted to make some agricultural fences with it, a thick area of cactus where nothing could get through, and also because they wanted to establish a cochineal dye industry. If you don't know what cochineal is, it's an insect that eats Oputnia, and it can be picked off the plant, knocked off the plant, and dried, and they make red dye out of it. They still make red dye out of it today. It's used in cosmetics and even in food. So sometimes if you're eating food that's dyed red, you're actually eating the dye from an insect. You're eating insects. Once in Australia, Oputnia stricta, there's a picture there. It became invasive, very weedy. It converted 100,000 square miles of farmland into an impenetrable jungle as much as 20 feet high. Farmers were driven off their land by what they called the green hail at the time. And by 1919, the cactus growth advanced at the rate of 1 million acres per year. So the Australian government, federal government, established a prickly pear board to eradicate it. And they did that by importing a moth that actually eats it lays its larva on the cactus and burrows in it, can kill it. So they suffered greatly from trying to start an industry that's not native to their area. This cactus, if you want to kill it, the only way to kill it, or the main way to kill it, you can dig it up, but the main way to kill it is just give it too much water and too rich of soil. You can see in this here out in the desert, it's a sandy, dry area, and it's going just fine. It's naturally adapted to poor soil and well-drained conditions. They will not survive a wet area, and you want to choose a well-drained site in full sun. You want to amend the soil with gravel, make a raised bed even, and add maybe 1 part gravel with the native clay. If you've got clay, you know how wet clay stays in the winter. You're going to want to kind of loosen that up with something gravel or make a raised bed where you know the water is going to drain away. So you're probably thinking, well, we've got native prickly pear in Kentucky, so how do they live here in our clay? Usually when you find them in the wild, they're usually growing in a slate or shell laden soil somewhere, or on an outcrop on top of a knob or a hill or mountain, usually where there's not much else competition, and it's just a barren, hard place for other plants that's not well equipped for storing their own water to grow. Once you've made a raised bed or a berm, you want to put on thick leather gloves. This is if you're going to start your own or plant your own. It's not the large spines there. You see the large spines sticking out there that you can see easily, and it will spike and hurt, but it doesn't stick in. If you look down there at the base of that, that's called glochids, and those are the little prickly spines that actually will stick in your skin and remain there, and then they're hard to get out, they're hard to see, but every time you touch something where that spine is sticking out, it hurts your fingers. So just keep that in mind. And when you plant these, it's good just to plant them with some kitchen tongs. I will say this, do not use the ones with the silicone ends on it, because those little prickly pears will stick in the silicone and you'll never get them out. And that will forever be your prickly pear tongs. So just keep that in mind. You want to use the metal ones only. So if you want to harvest some pads off of someone else's plants, or if you want to go out and maybe harvest a pad off of a wild prickly pear, all you really need to do is a sharp knife and really good gloves or tongs, and you're just going to cut there. You can see where that pad was connected to the other plant, its original plant, and you're just going to cut it right there or break it right there. Usually it'll break pretty easy too. And then you're going to let that set out direct sunlight for a week or so, just to let that callus over. And that callusing is what will make it go ahead and heal over, and it will be ready to go ahead and root. So the next step, all you have to do is just plant it. You can lay it a little bit sideways, or you can plant it straight up. It's up to you. About 2 inches of the cut ends all needs to be in the soil, and it will root before too long, and you'll start to see new growth. Once it has rooted, you'll see new growth coming from the top of the pad. So you see, this is the winter wrinkles, as we call it. You can see that this is how these plants make it through the cold spells and wet winters. They actually will kind of dehydrate themselves where there's not as much water in the plant, and they'll lay there. That's the reason they have that wrinkled look. They look like they're dying, but they're not. This is just how they've adapted to be able to overwinter in sub-freezing conditions. If you have any of these prickly pears out in the winter time and you go out in the garden and you'll see them, you'll notice that they do have what we call the winter wrinkles. It's not just because they've gotten some age on them, it's just because that's how they get through the cold spells. There's several varieties for the home garden. There's actually hybrids and cultivars. There's some that were just selected out of the wild in some other states. We'll go through a few of these. I'm not going to try to say all these botanical names because my Latin is not that great. But this one is a variety of Apache, and you can see it's got a nice pink flower on it. These do come in multiple colors now. Early on, most of people around here, or most of us, knew them as yellow, but as they went out west and found different cultivars and different varieties, and down into Mexico, there's a lot of different colors out there now. And this one, you can see, gets 8 inches high and 12 inches wide. It is hardy to zone 3, so it goes way far north. And obviously, there's no heat spell that it doesn't like, so it'll go all the way down to Mexico where it's hot year round. Here's Barnalillo. It has very short white spines, a little tidy compact plant. Doesn't have a lot of flowers though, but it does have that neat spine conditions there that kind of give it a little bit more interest to it. They call the spine spination. You'll see there, 4 inches high by 18 inches wide, and it's hardy to zone 5, so we can grow these. This is not a cultivar. It is a wild selection, which has deep golden flowers in June. And you can see there it gets 18 inches tall and up to 4 foot wide. So it actually gets quite wide. And it thrives to zone 4, another one that we can grow. This is a cross. This is a hybrid here. This is Claude Arnaud. It has deep rose flowers. And it's another one of those. It's pretty short to the ground and gets 18 inches wide. It's a compact selection. So if you've got a tight location that you'd want to grow some of these in, this is a good selection as well. Another hybrid, compact mounding cushion type. 8 inches by 12 inches. It is also hardy through zone 3. It can tolerate more water than most of our Western species that we can grow here. So this one maybe not need as much gravel if you don't want to bring all of that, amend your soil quite a bit for that. There's Mesa Melon. It is a selection. It has enormous pads. They're a lot larger than most of them. And it has reddish fruit in September, and it gets 12 inches high and 5 feet wide. So this is a large one. Just keep in mind now, can you keep it from being 5 foot wide? Yeah, you can just break some pads off here and there and kind of keep it in shape. But this one's already to zone 5. So again, another one of that's perfect for us. This is Namby Sunrise, another hybrid. You can see that it has lots of flowers on it, and the pads turn purple in the winter. They even got a little bit of purplish still there when it's in flower there. So it's a small one though, 8 inches by 24 inches. But it is an extra bloomer. It has a lot more blooms than some of the other varieties do. Persimmon is a pretty new color in the prickly pears. This is a variety that was a vigorous Bob Johnson variety. Bob Johnson works with a lot of these and hybridizes them. I know that name means nothing to most of us. But anyway, it has huge pads and the plants are pretty large, 15 inches by 48 inches. It also has large fruit. So if you're one of the person that wants to try to maybe grow some fruit, this would be a good selection for you. You can see this is a variety that was selected out of the wild. It's not a hybrid or cultivated necessarily. Well, it's cultivated now, but you can see it was picked because of all of the spination that it's got. I mean, it's just looks like it's hairy. It's got lemon yellow flowers. It's great for your rock garden, and it's a small selection, so that's good if you got a tight location. It gets 4 inches high and only 24 inches wide, so it's a small one. But it is grown really more for the spination than it is the flowers because it's another one of those that's doesn't have a lot of flowers when it's in bloom. This one's gorgeous. I have actually seen this in person blooming, and it is absolutely beautiful. If you've liked this kind of a garnet red color, this one is a hybrid. It is Walking Beauty Garnet Glow. It's ideal for the smaller garden or a large pot. You can grow these in containers if you've got the container in a location where it can have some protection in the winter. But you've got to think, okay, we're zone in Central Kentucky right now. They've moved us up to 7A in our zone. So if you think about it, if you're going to grow something in a container, the container is probably going to be considered, if it's just out in the open, 2 zones north. So it'd still be like zone 5, and this one's already zone 4. So you can see it would be fine in a container. It gets 6 inches high and 36 inches wide. I guess one thing about the container is you control the amount of water easier than you can if they're in the soil. Oputnia fragilis. This is coral rose. It is a large form of another what they call brittle cactus. Brittle cactus just means that it breaks easy. And the advantage of a cactus breaking easy would be that if an animal walked by, broke a piece, maybe it stuck to the animal and it gets deposited somewhere else, or maybe it just falls to the ground and roots and grows another plant. Anyway, this is a 6-inch high by 18-inch wide plant. Another one of those that's kind of doesn't bloom quite as much as some of the other varieties. Here is a spineless form, which you still have the pricklies, or the little prickly pears, but you don't have the larger spines. It is an unusual in the fact that it doesn't have the larger spines. It does have a blue stem, and it's got a diamond-shaped pattern on the stems. If you look, you'll have to grow it to see it. And the flower is a little bit different than some of the other varieties. As you can see, it's spiked rather than rounded or waved. And then we have a new one here that actually changes color. This is oranges and lemons. It starts out lemon one day and it's orange the next. That particular flower, anyway, it's a 6-inch by 36-inch wide variety. Now, we didn't talk about insects and diseases on these, and the main reason is about the only disease they get around here is going to be root rot. And then as far as insects, there's not any insects native to our location that actually will destroy these cactus. Now out west, they've got the cochineal bugs and the moth, but here we don't have that problem, so we can grow these pretty well here. Here's a few sites you might want to stop and check out if you want to buy some of these varieties. I did a class several years ago on these, and I actually bought pads, and gave them out at the class. But they will mail you, if you buy these, they'll mail you an unrooted pad, and then you just plant it when you get it, and it grows easy. You can also go to the New Mexico Cactus Society. You want some more information there. And I did look, there is not a national that I could find prickly pear society, but there's a lots of states and cities that have their own societies. Also, if you want to read on how to cook with these and eat some of these cactus pads or fruits, there is a publication from the Arizona Extension there, and I put the link there for you as well. And there's lots of other information out there, but I thought those were some of the ones that you probably would be more interested in if you're interested in prickly pears. So here's a little garden of prickly pears, and there's lots, and there are other hardy cactus that we can grow, some that get tall or whatever, but I wanted just to stick with the prickly pear for this PowerPoint. But there are several varieties, some from Colorado and some other places that are not prickly pear, but they are hardy in our location.